these brunch services are nice. So we always feedback we get from everybody is always very positive, and well, yeah, that's right. um, um, we do miss music, but in the scheme of things, it's good. And so we're going to have a little tiny input from me, and then the bulk of our time we spent um, talking in our table groups, and I've got some guidance for that here as well. Um, but to sort of get us thinking, what would you do if um, what length would you go to get yourself to Jesus? If you heard him walking down the street, what would you do? No need. Oh, you can call it if you want to, but what would you do to get his attention? You'd yell, wouldn't you? Maybe you'd wave something. You might run in front of him and intercept him somehow. Who knows? But what if you? Um, but what if all you could do was use your voice? What would you call out? Well, there'd be lots of people calling out, wouldn't there? Like if you were really sick and walking past you was the one who you knew could heal you, what would you do to get his attention? Because everybody's calling out, like paparazzi, look at me, look at me. Well, what if you worked out, or what if you thought, if I call out Jesus' name, that shows that I understand he's more than just a miracle dispenser? What if I call out something that shows him that I get who you really are? So these two blind guys in Matthew chapter 19 do just that. As Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, this is Matthew chapter 19, verse 29, a large crowd followed him. Two blind men were sitting by the roadside, and when they heard that Jesus was going by, they shouted, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. They called out that phrase, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. In doing that, these two guys are reaching back about 1,000 years to a promise that was made to David, but was never really could never be fulfilled, not by David. Um, but in calling out this phrase, Lord, Son of David, they're acknowledging something that maybe most people in the crowd wouldn't have had a clue of. And that is that you, Jesus, you are the fulfillment of this Davidic covenant. You are the Messiah. Now, I was saying to Ted a few moments ago, I think it was, the Davidic covenant is in 2 Samuel chapter 7. Now, some scholars say that this is the most important chapter in the entire Bible. That's huge, isn't it? Because this is the Davidic covenant where the only one that could possibly fulfill the Davidic covenant is Christ. So this is where God is making a promise that Christ is the fulfillment of. Now, is it the most important? I'm not convinced of that, but it certainly is. It's pretty key. So 2 Samuel chapter 7. So to put it in context, let me just give you a bit of story to where this fits, and then Christine and I are going to just read the passage together in a moment. So the context is, so we've had David and Samuel, we've had David and Goliath, we've had Saul as king, we've had David's friendship with Jonathan, we've had his marriage to Saul's daughter Michal. We've had all that. David's king. He's been made king. Last week, Christine looked at where the Ark of the Covenant was to be brought back into town, and it slipped, and Uzzah, was it Uzzah? Who reached out to stop it, and he died. And then David said, well, this is dangerous. So they sent it off to Obed, the Edomite, something like that. And as soon as the ark arrived, all of a sudden, Obed's everything just flourished. And so David said, oh, hang on a minute, maybe we want it back. So they brought it back. They brought it back, and David is dancing before the Lord in his undies. And Michal, his wife, despises him because of that, because she thought that all the slave women will want David. And so, well, you think there wasn't even undies? Well, wasn't he dancing in his ephod or something? Well, flowy undies, the kind that most of us men wear, you know. There's an image you can't get out of your mind now, can you? So the ark's back, everything's settled. David um, wins lots of battles. This is a problematic part of the story, I think. Like you read this story and it says, and David killed 19,000 of this people, and he killed 12,000 of this. It's an awful part of the story. Even more difficult when it says, and the Lord gave him victory. I'm not so sure that's what actually happened, but anyway, so that's where we are in the story. All these battles are won. David's king. Everything's in place, and it's like David. It's a bit like that's the part of the story where we're at. And as David sits in his palace that he's built, he looks around and thinks, "This is pretty good, isn't it?" But then he looks outside to where the Ark of the Covenant, which is the place where they believed God lived, which, I mean, you and I would know that's a little bit crazy, but they believed that God lived in the Ark of the Covenant. And it was in the tent of meeting. And David said, I'm living in this palace and God's living in a tent. It's not right. So David says to Nathan the prophet, this is the same Nathan who would, in a few minutes' time, a few chapters' time, say to David after his sin with Bathsheba, "Thou art the man." That's the same Nathan. So David says to Nathan, "I'm going to build a temple for God." And Nathan says, "Sounds good." That night, Nathan goes to sleep. And God says to Nathan in a dream, the Davidic covenant. God tells Nathan what his plans are, which is the Davidic covenant. This agreement with mankind that could never be fulfilled in an individual like David. It needed someone who was different. So that's where we're up to. Shall we read this passage now? It's 2 Samuel chapter 7. I've got a handout for you. Shame Daniel's not here because he loves AI graphic stuff. Yeah, you'll see it when you got it. I could have spent 2 weeks preparing it graphically, but AI did it for me in 2 minutes. So, Christine, can you read a little portion of the passage? Oh, you got it on there. That's right. And I'll make a brief comment.
Okay, starting at verse 8, 2 Samuel 7. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I took you from the pasture, from tending the flock, and appointed you ruler over my people Israel.
So this part says, or God says God is speaking to Nathan, but then Nathan's reporting this to David. He says, look, this is all by grace. You were not king material. You were the least known, your youngest son of an unknown family in some backwater place. This is purely by grace. So whatever the covenant is about to go on to say, grace is the foundation.
It's also our tagline for the series, From Pasture to Palace.
Yes, so it is.
Verse 9, I have been with you wherever you have gone, and I have cut off all your enemies from before you. Now I will make your name great, like the names of the greatest men on earth.
So a problematic verse in a sense. I've cut off all your enemies. Not that requires some thinking through. We've engaged that a couple of weeks ago, but this last bit, now I will make your name great. Not in a I won't say what I've got written, but not in a sense that some world leaders think of greatness. This is greatness in the Abrahamic covenant kind of greatness, where God said to Abraham, "I'll make you great. I'm going to make you a great nation, so that you'll bless others." So this is greatness for the sake of others.
The Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you.
So God's flipping the script here. So David goes to Nathan and says, I'm going to build God a house. And God says to David, well, hang on a minute. I'm actually going to build you, not you, but I'm going to build something instead of you building me a house. I'm building something, not a house, but a kingdom that will last forever.
Verse 12, when your days are over and you rest with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, your own flesh and blood, and I will establish his kingdom. He is the one who will build a house for my name. And I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever.
So here we get into the heart of the covenant, that God is promising something to David that is a kingdom forever. David couldn't have been that. David can't be king forever, nor can his son. So God says to David, you won't build the temple, your son will, but it's a kingdom, it's a kingship that will last forever. So clearly it's pointing to something beyond even David and Solomon.
And verse 14, I will be his father and he will be my son.
So whereas all they would have understood was power relationships, like David king conquered and overpowered the others, God says this kingdom is going to be different. The kingdom that you rule over, David, is all about swords and spears and killing your enemies. But this kingdom is characterized by love, father-son sort of thing, characterized by love.
Verse 16, your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever.
So again, same thing. This covenant points beyond David to one who's, according to Micah 5, who is from of old, from ancient times. No, thank you. You can have a rest.
Later in the story of David, God actually says to David, you're not building my temple because you have too much blood on your hands. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So in a nutshell, the Davidic promise says this. It's a promise that God will establish a relationship with people based on grace and grounded in love that will be forever. That's the Davidic covenant. Now, if you look at that, you think, that's the gospel of Christ, isn't it? And this is 1,000 years before Christ. This is what the Davidic covenant says. God will establish a relationship with people based on grace, grounded in love, that is eternal. David can't fulfill that, nor can Solomon. This requires one whose origins are from of ancient times, Christ. So, what we want to do now with really the bulk of the remainder of our time is to lean into this story a bit, but from a personal pastoral perspective. So I want to give you one of these. Oh, thank you, Christine. I'll keep one. Thank you. There's plenty. And so it's basically 5 reflections. My suggestion is just tackle one, maybe 2. Particularly my suggestion is do the 5th one when you go home. But let me just very, very quickly go through so you know what we're talking about. You'll see they're printed on the front there. The reverse side has the Bible passage. The front has the 5 reflections. So the first one, David wanted to build a house for God. They believed that God lived in the Ark of the Covenant, but David wanted to build a better house. So the reflection is there a place or a time where God seems closer to you? So that's a conversation you can have amongst yourselves on the table. It might be when I come to church. It might be sunset. It might be when I hear music. It might be whatever. But chat amongst yourselves about, is there a place or a time where God seems distant or closer? The second reflection is about Nathan the prophet. He got it wrong. Because when David first said, I'm going to build a temple, Nathan the prophet said, yeah, that sounds good. Do whatever the Lord has placed on your heart to do. But it was wrong. God's heart was to not build a temple, but to build something different. So, in what ways can you hold your plans, your ideas, your convictions with humility? Because even though Nathan got it wrong, as soon as God gave him the dream, he straight away went to David and said, "This is the plan. Not what you said, this is the plan." So how do we hold our strongly held ideas with humility? The third reflection is the Davidic covenant is about building a kingdom that will bless others. So what are we building here at Brow Baptist? That's a great question, I think. What are we building? And how could you lean into the construction? So what are we building here, and how can you lean into it? If God sent Nathan to us, Nathan the prophet, what would you hope God would say to us as a church family? And the last one, David wanted to build something for God, um, but God intended to build something in or through David. So the fifth reflection, what is God trying to build in you in this particular season of life? It's a good question for home, I think. There's a lot there. My suggestion is try 1 and 3. The first one is a good one, just a nice, gentle entry. And the third one, what are we building here? But I'll leave it to you. So the front page, you'll see there's those 5 reflections, a few kind of prompty questions, and the back side is the scripture passage. So I reckon let's go at it till just before 11, and then I'll invite you back if there's anybody that's dying to offer some feedback. Then after that, we'll have some food together. Sound all right?